What's up, YouTube? I'm Robert, and this is the Biker Channel, B1. Today, here we are again on the Biker Bar. If you're not familiar with what the Biker Bar is, we're on our 26th episode of this live stream podcast. So what does that mean? It is a long format interview. This is not your typical live stream that you see from a bunch of other mountain bike YouTubers. This is more along the lines of I'm trying to rip Joe Rogan off. And we're going to talk about bikes. So this is episode 26. Have an exciting guest. But today, the way that we're going to start this, the way that we usually start this is I don't have any paid advertisement. So we're going to take this time to advertise me because I like talking about myself, apparently. So what do we got going on here? First of all, I want to tell all you guys, thank you so much for supporting the channel. No matter how you do that, whether you watch the video from the beginning to the end, you watch 10 minutes of it at a time, but 27 times in a row, I don't care how you do it. Hit the thumbs up button if you like something that you see. If you giggle once, hit the thumbs up button. If you see something that you don't like, feel free to hit the thumbs down button twice. I'm totally okay with that. It works for me every time. Outside of that, I have a Facebook and an Instagram channel outside of YouTube. So if you could please stop by at BikerB1. I actually have a Twitter as well. I guess it's just called a Twitter. I have one of those Twitter things. I have a tweet thing. And what that is apparently not getting a lot of action. But either way, the Instagram and the Facebook are the ones that actually mean a little bit more to me. So if you could swing by at BikerB1 and follow that or subscribe or put the thumbs up, whatever you have to do to make that thing be part of your normal daily routine, do that. The Instagram and the Facebook, they're both the same content. So if you're only going to do one, or don't do them both because you're going to see the same thing twice. Either way, it's definitely good. There's a lot of extra content that comes there. And if you want more content than that, you can stop by my Patreon. That's easy to come to. It's patreon.biker.com, or you can go to patreon.com/biker, or there's probably another million ways that you can go about it. But that's the way I'm going to explain it today. What you get there is access to my coupons that I work out with different vendors that we talk to on the show, as well as some extra content here and there. If you really want extra content, then you can join the $5 a month. I think I call it the Happy Hour Crew. And what that does is give you long cut videos of my POV stuff, as well as early release of that stuff too. So if you have it in you to support my beer habit or possibly my bike part habit, stop by Patreon because that means a lot. I actually took all the ads out of my videos, so there's no ads in the middle of the videos anymore. I'm just relying on you guys. So it basically, if you want to keep seeing me do this stuff, please hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, or stop by Patreon and support me that way. It means a lot. It definitely means a lot. I want to mention I'm wearing a little Worldwide Cyclery hat today because that's just what I pulled out of my closet, and it just so happens to be the guest that I'm having on tonight also has a deal with Worldwide Cyclery. So let's do a little bit of introduction here. We got Mo from the Mo Awesome YouTube channel. Tell me, Mo, what's going on over the side of the YouTube?
Not much, dude. So my name is Mo. I'm from Awesome MTB, and we're basically, me and my fiance Hannah, we run Awesome MTB, and it's we basically just create mountain bike content. We live in a van full time. We coach mountain biking. We do tours and all that stuff. But more importantly, we just go out there and have a great time and travel a bunch and do dirtbag things.
Dirtbag things. I think the first question that comes to mind for me, like every time, why Mo Awesome? What's the deal with the awesome? You obviously, I don't think you were born with that. I mean, if you were born with the
name, so surprisingly, I'm not conceited. That's the. So basically, I used to work in a bike shop, and the owner of the bike shop, I'm not going to name names, he was definitely a little bit more on the hippie stoner type. Mm-hmm. And one day he was looking at my last name, and my last name is actually spelled ASSOUM as in Mary. Mm-hmm. And he looked at it, and he was all like, "Dude, no, your last name's awesome." Like literally, like spelled out.
now I'm digging
it. And then the Mo from like my full name is like really long, and it has like an accent in there, and so I used to play basketball, and a coach just looked at my last name and he's like, or my first name. He's like, I can't say that. I'm just going to call you Mo. So the combination of both, and I became Mo Awesome. And then that was like the best thing that happened for me, marketing wise.
Yeah, you can't pick your own nickname, right?
Yeah, and it was like, and then so originally when we were thinking of, because it was just me at first, when I was thinking about like what I was going to call my coaching program, I was going to call it Mo Awesome MTB. And then Hannah came into the mix, and I thought about it, and I was all like, let me just drop the Mo, and then it just becomes Awesome MTB.
There you go.
And it worked out literally perfectly. So it's like a play on words, and I don't actually think I'm that awesome, and I'm not that conceited either. So
yeah, no, I'm with you. I did a little with mine as well. I'm going to also throw this disclaimer out to anybody that's listening to this live right now or listening to it after the fact on Google Play or Apple Podcast. Mo is hijacking some dirtbag freaking internet off of, I think, Whole Foods right now in Las Vegas. So if he gets a little digital here and there, or maybe drops out and we have to do a little filler, that's the way it goes when you're living the van life. So, so just bear with us, please. And just want to let people know that there's also apparently a storm coming through like Northern California right now. A couple weeks ago, dude, I was doing this live stream. My fucking power went out. I never thought that was like an option. So now I'm like, oh, I think I have to like make everybody know that there's a possibility that this is going to be fucked up. So.
Yeah, especially with that. I apologize to the fans too. My microphone setup, actually, Rob had to teach me how to adjust my microphone boost. I didn't know that you could adjust like the settings or anything. So I'm like, not only technologically handicapped, we're also homeless. And we're bumming off Wi-Fi at the Whole Foods.
Hey, man, there is nothing wrong with any of that. The only reason I use the dirt bag, I guess that's an adjective. I don't know. The only reason I used that earlier is because you were a self-proclaimed that way. So
no, we live and breathe it. So we're happy with that term.
So the first thing that I want to ask, or the next thing that I don't even know why I'm prefacing it that way. How about I just ask a fucking question? So this is the deal. You were saying that your first name is like Mo Alphabet. Yeah. And that makes me wonder, like, well, what's your ethnicity? What's your background? Where's Mo Alphabet come from?
So my first name is Munech. And most people who try and pronounce it, it's like Munech, but that's why I just go, the Mo is super cool. But both of my parents are from Lebanon. And so I'm actually, like, most people don't know this, I'm actually also a citizen. I have dual citizenship. So I'm a citizen of the country of Lebanon, which is in the Middle East. And I also speak Arabic too.
Oh, and dude, it's like, cool, man.
Yeah, it's like not the most useful language for mountain biking. Like it actually hasn't been a situation I've been in mountain biking where I've been like, oh, I'm going to bust out my Arabic. But yeah, so I speak Arabic and I got a Lebanese citizenship. So worst comes to worst and everything goes to hell in America, I can just take off back to Lebanon, but I'm hoping that doesn't happen because I'm not sure the mountain biking's too good over there.
So those of you guys that don't know, if you're looking at Europe, you know, and you have like Europe is on the northern part of the map and Africa's on the lower part of the map, and you have the Mediterranean Sea kind of come in there at the very end of the Mediterranean Sea to the right or the east. If you're looking at it that way, that's where Lebanon is. That's interesting. So were your parents like they're like first generation to America, or? Yeah.
So they basically, my dad came here first, and he was looking for like a better life. Did the whole kind of working just random jobs. He had like a carpentry background. He had electrical background, and then he just slowly started like moving his way up the ladder. And then it was funny. He was actually he was working at an Amici's. It's like a pizza chain, like very similar to Domino's.
Oh, okay.
And he was just like, I think he was like a worker at one, and he like went back to the Middle East, and that's where he met my mom. And he like told her that he owned a restaurant in the U.S.
I may or may not have lied to some women about my profession in the past, so that I could get a little bit further with them.
Yeah, so that's the whole joke with my mom is she came here under false pretenses. She was expecting him to own a restaurant and like him to buy a house. He told her like he was in the process of buying a house, and just all these other kind of, I mean, just typical stuff that kind of guys.
It's just marketing. I mean, if you're in the process, I mean, like I could be buying a house in the next 15 years. So I'm in the process right now. I'm in the like saving process or, you know.
Yeah, she doesn't let him live it down either, though.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, I don't think you could in those circumstances, right?
Yeah, so they're both from there, and they came over here, and then we actually all moved back for a year, I think. Mm-hmm. They were thinking about like just calling it quits in America, and then I mean, thankfully they ended up returning after a year. Mm-hmm. So that's where I just kind of continued being an American too, but.
So were you born in the States or were you born over there?
I was born here, but then shortly after I was born, I think only a couple of years, I was taken back to the Middle East.
So you just get dual citizenship because like both
of my parents are.
I don't know how that works. So
yeah, I think if I want to say if your mother is from that country, I'm not sure if it's mother or dad, but one of them basically got me my citizenship in Lebanon.
Oh, that's neat. Do you have to do anything to like keep that active or?
No, that's the coolest thing. I really don't have to do much. I mean, I went back and visited when I was like 16 or 17. Mm-hmm. But other than that, it's basically permanent, which is pretty rad.
Do they have like any kind of like religious thing that maybe like they wear a turban or anything like that or?
So no, I mean, like some people in the culture, I think that's like with Islam. Mm-hmm. Some people will have like Middle Eastern women, I think, wear the head dressing. I'm not too familiar. Like I'm pretty, I don't want to say far removed. I'm very American. Yeah. Even though I speak Arabic, that's pretty much the extent.
No, I was just, I think the reason that I was asking was just like, if like, as you were growing up, if you like, had to like face any like diversity issues because
no, for sure. Yeah. I mean both my parents, when you talk to them, you know right away that they're not from
they're Middle Eastern.
The US.
Right.
Yeah. And so I mean growing up, especially like elementary school, that was like when the whole 9/11 thing happened. Like I definitely distinctively remember like a couple of situations where you kind of like experience some like just outwardly just racist things. And it actually continued like as I grew older, and I have a pretty good sense of humor, but I remember when I was working in a bike shop about like 4 or 5 years ago, there was this one customer who came in, and man, he must have thought we were really good friends, but he was all like, he went upstairs and then he goes, "Don't let Mr. Taliban touch my bike." Wow. And he said it in a, he like thought it was a joke. It was in his defense. I mean, I could definitely see the playful nature.
Yeah. No, dude, believe me.
Yeah.
I am the king of saying something really fucked up.
Oh yeah, totally. Funny. But it was funny because like literally everyone upstairs, we were all in there, like the boss, like my coworkers, and everyone stopped what they were doing,
right,
and just turned like towards me, like, "How is Mo gonna?" Whoa, that was way too far. He ended up apologizing after too. I think he realized like that was like a big line to cross. That
unfortunately, dude, I do that while I'm working with people, so it's not until like the second, like the next day where I'm like, oh, I don't know if that joke went over the way that I thought it was going to.
Yeah.
And then I like grovel on it for like a week, and I'm like beating the shit out of myself. And then you get a text from me where I'm like, "I'm sorry," and you're like, "I actually don't know what you're talking about, dude."
Well, I think that the tough thing with people is that, I mean, we definitely live at a point in time where everyone's like really, I don't want to say sensitive because that has like a negative stigma, but like people are, you can't really say what you could say like 5 years ago, 7 years ago.
You know what you're saying right there, like rings a bell with me right now, because I actually recently had somebody send me a message that, and I'm not trying to call them out in any way, shape, or form, but what they did was they sent me a message, which I get like regularly from a lot of people because I'm not PC and I definitely push the boundaries in my humor and everything like that. And somebody had asked me like, "Hey, could you maybe not do this because, it's offensive?" And it's like for me, it's like, it's one of those like almost pet peeves to me where it's like, I think that like, I want to give worth to the groups that are like kind of fighting those battles. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, like don't fuck with humor, man. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And then also I feel like outside even humor, I personally feel like in some of those circumstances, whenever you're playing with it with humor, that actually kind of like dismisses the actual like bad value of it.
Mhm.
But other people like to run with that, and you know, it's a slippery slope. Like honestly, like I get both sides of the story, but on
Yeah.
the other hand, I especially like I feel like with humor, it's like if we let like the complete PC nation just come like avalanche over
Yeah.
top of us, what's going to be funny? Like you're not going to
Yeah.
be allowed to laugh at anything, right?
Well, I think that's where a lot of like high profile celebrities are struggling right now. Like, I mean, I keep up with like all things news, and I'm always on YouTube. And you just see so many like stories where, I mean, wasn't it just like recently, what's that comedian, the really funny one that got asked to host that one big
Oh
award
yeah,
ceremony?
yeah. Little short dude.
Yeah, what was his name?
Oh God, I can't believe
I,
if we keep stalling as we're trying
I,
to think of it, it'll pop up in the
yeah,
chat here.
but
Hopefully they'll
basically,
save us.
yeah, I mean, he was, I think he like had a tweet from like 3 or 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of just resurfaced now. And he's a comedian, and he was telling you like in his comedic kind of sketches.
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just freaking eating it right now. Like people are
Right.
just braiding him left and right. And you really kind of have to like, it's I don't know, language is a very interesting thing, because like language is essentially communication. So like when is language, like when can language be funny? Obviously you need to take like other people into mind, but there's also like the context. Like if I'm talking to you, does that language kind of apply the same rules as me talking to the public?
I really respected Kevin a lot from whenever that happened, because he kind of took the same road as I did. He's like, dude, this is comedy. And honestly, if you guys don't want me on, fuck you. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's like, because I just like making people laugh. And if you guys don't want me to make people laugh, or you don't like how I make people laugh, then move the fuck on.
Yeah.
You know, essentially, I mean, that's what he said. I'm sure I paraphrased it in a much more un-PC manner, but at the end of the day, it's kind of what he said.
Yeah. So
apparently, people want to hear us talk about bikes. That's weird.
No, dude, I'm freaking. I don't like talking about that.
No, it's all good. So you grew up in LA, right?
Yeah. So I grew up in LA, and so if people want, like, I'll start incorporating bike into the mix. I actually never even knew what mountain biking was growing up. And it's funny, I say growing up, I'm still relatively young. So I'm 26 years old. And up until
did you just tell me I'm old? Is that what happened there?
Yeah, basically, I don't tell anyone who's at least 5 years older than me that they're old. But so I would say, so I grew up in LA, in the Valley in particular. So I was born and raised a Valley boy. And then I ended up going to
Can
college.
you explain what the Valley means to people that aren't from California?
Yeah, so the Valley, I mean, the best way to kind of sum it up is, if you think of any obnoxious accent, it's basically like you have Los Angeles, and people who say they're from LA, like they just think like downtown LA and just kind of gangster rap and Tupac and the Lakers. But then like there's this other, like the greater LA area, and that's where you start.
I just need to correct you, dude. Tupac's from Oakland.
Oh, is he from Oakland? Oh.
No, I'm just fucking with. No, he is from the Bay Area, but I just had.
Oh shit! Yeah. Well, so
your geography is all fucked up now.
Oh yeah, I only know California, and then you have the Pacific Northwest, you have Canada, you have Texas, and then New York.
That's it.
Anything in between is like, I don't know. I'm from California.
I used to live in Germany, and the German women thought Americans were one of two things: a cowboy or a surfer. So like they really had it like they have it dialed way better than even like you, man. And they're like, hey, it's this or that. So you grew up in LA. Where did bikes come in? So you didn't have a bike like when you were growing up. You were just like,
no. So I rode just like a kid, rode my bike around, rode with my dad a lot. But nothing like competitive, no road riding. Like it was literally just like Target bike, and that was like an expensive bike.
Right.
And then I went to college at the University of California, Irvine. And for those of you that don't know Irvine is, it's basically the Orange County area, which is like below LA.
That's where all the gangster rappers hang out.
That's where, right in Laguna Beach,
right?
But when I went to college, I realized like really quickly that like I hate school. Like that was.
I almost went to school to Irvine too, man. I when I was going to college, I wanted to do be like a sound engineer, like recording artist, and they had a really good program in Irvine. So that's what you're thinking.
Well, when I finally got there, and then I realized like, oh man, college is not for me. And I started off with like an engineering major, and I was like, man, I do not like this whole like sitting in like a classroom learning thing. But like
your parents were stoked. They're like, he's going to be an engineer. And you're like, no, I'm going to live in a van. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, my parents were like so hyped because like everything that like the plan, I guess, was like going perfectly. Like they came to the US, they had a son, he went to college. It was a really good.
He's going to be an engineer.
He's going to have an engineer. And then I was like, this whole school thing is just like, I don't get it. And so I remember I had a roommate named Yanni, and Yanni loved to try new things. Like he didn't like to commit to any new things. He just liked to actually try them.
Right.
And I remember he asked me one day and he's like, dude, you want to try mountain biking? And I'm like, what's that? And then he's all like, there's a Santa Cruz demo. It's a really big company. I didn't even know who Santa Cruz was.
Right.
And I remember I went with him to go
apparently geographically, you didn't even know where it
I didn't even know where it was. But I remember showing up to the demo, and dude, I thought it was the hardest, most ridiculous freaking sport in the world.
Right.
And I was hooked. And that was weird too, because I grew up playing basketball, and I actually thought I was going to the NBA at one point in high school. And then I actually tried out for the high school team and realized I sucked.
Dude, that is exactly how I feel every time I make a mountain bike video, dude. I'm like, I think I'm going to be YouTube gold. And then I fucking put it online and I'm like, nope, you suck.
It was the absolute worst. I went to a school that did like a lot of like inner city school busing. So we had like a lot of the kids coming out of like South Central and like downtown LA, Compton, Crenshaw. Like they were just kind of busing students to our school, and that was kind of awesome. Like you have like social diversity and stuff, but then you also had like really good basketball players, like amazing. Like we had like, I think it was Jordan Farmar went to our school. He used to play for the Lakers, and just like all these, like they were just like way bigger than me, way better than me, and I like was quickly humbled.
How tall are you?
I'm like 6'2", and that's
okay.
like,
so you're like me. So you're a bigger guy then.
Yeah, I'm a bigger guy, but I still got dunked on at tryout.
Oh yeah,
and I was like,
dude,
okay.
I'm tall unless I'm hanging out with basketball players. You know what I mean?
And then you're short, and those guys are humongous.
Dude, at 6'2", it is the weirdest thing. Whenever I have like, and maybe guys that aren't as tall as me won't relate, but let me explain this to you. If I ever have to make my eyes move up to look at somebody, or even move my chin up to look at somebody, it is so fucking awkward and like, I'm not used to that, so like if I'm around somebody that's like 6'5", I feel like a fucking peanut, and I'm like, man, this must be what it like some women that are like 5'1" or 5'2", I'm like, oh my god, this is like, I understand why they're like, they feel like intimidated by people and stuff. I'm like, holy shit, dude, because this is nuts. I never have to do that, Well,
on the other end of that, sometimes I forget how big I actually am, because I'm about 6'2", 210 pounds. And I look pretty scraggly most of the time. I got the long hair, I look kind of dirtbaggy. And it's funny, sometimes like me and Hannah will be walking somewhere, and I'm like, I would consider myself like a little mouse, where like I look really big, but inside I don't like fighting or anything like that. And I get kind of scared out sometimes. Like I'm very like cautious.
Yeah.
And I'll see like someone or like a group, and I'd be like, oh man, that's pretty sketchy. And then she'll look at me and she'd be like, what the hell are you scared of? you're twice the size. And like, we'll be walking and they almost look like they're scared of me.
Right.
And that's when I kind of realized like, oh, wait a minute.
So how tall is Hannah?
Hannah's like 5'8".
Oh, okay. So she's a pretty tall girl too.
She's pretty tall too. Yeah. So it all works out here.
Yeah, my lady's like 5'11", so
oh wow,
between the two of us, like we both think like friends of ours will come over to our house and they'll be like, "Oh, where's that at?" And we're like, "Oh, it's right over here on this shelf." And they're like, "I need a ladder to get up there, guys." We go over to friends' houses, you see all the dust on top of their refrigerator.
Yeah.
And shit. You're like, "Oh wow, you guys never clean up your fucking dirt bags."
Yeah, all people problems.
Right. So your buddy decides to talk you into this fucking demo. It's the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
You have a Walmart bike or something like that at that point. So where do you start up in the game from there?
Yeah, so I remember going to that and I was hooked. And so I went to and as ironic as it sounds, I went to actually Dick's Sporting Goods and I bought a mountain bike from there. So if Daily MTB Rider is watching this, I know he did the whole Dick's Sporting Goods.
Yeah, yeah, I've done a few of them.
Yeah, I bought one from there. I took it out for a ride. I went with my dad. He's like, "What do you want to do?" I was like, "Let's try let's do mountain biking. The sport's amazing." And we climbed this hill next to my house. And dude, my dad freaking was way ahead of me. I felt like puking at this point. I was like, which it's funny because looking back at it, I'm like, wow, like I have come so far in terms of riding. Because I just remember like feeling like my intestines were going to come out through my throat. And I was just like, how do people do this thing? And we got to like the top and then we just had to go down a fire road and we were crawling, dude, freaking out.
Right.
And then after that, it was basically like literally all downhill from there.
That's the hardest thing to remember when you're teaching somebody or taking somebody out for their first time. Like it's so hard to remember how much fear you have and B, like actually how hard it is. Like, look, dude, I'm not a fucking pillar of fitness. I don't look like one at least. However, I ride a lot of bikes. And even though I'm eating way more calories than I'm burning, I ride a lot of bikes. So like I can go out and do this like 20-mile ride, 4,000 feet elevation. I don't look like that guy. You know what I mean? So a lot of people, whenever they want to go ride with me or maybe somebody that's never ridden and I'm like, "Oh yeah, you can do it," they're thinking, "Look at this fat fuck. I go to the gym every day. I'm good to go." And then they come out there and they're like, "Oh fuck." And for me, I'm thinking the same way. Like I am I'm looking at myself the same way. I'm a fucking fat fuck, dude. Actually, these guys will be fine, And then I get out there and I see the look on their face, and I'm like, "Oh, they want to murder me right now." Apparently, I've done this wrong.
Well, the cool thing with me is so because I had that experience, and then literally like after that, I mean, I have a very addictive personality. It was literally game on. Like I needed to master this sport. And I went a solid like 2-3 years of literally just teaching myself like how to mountain bike and like become a solid rider. Right. And it was so much time, effort. And I mean, school was like a second thought at that point. Like I was barely even going to school. I was a pretty smart, like I don't want to say smart because I don't feel like with school you have to be smart. I was really good at school. Right. And so I would basically, and so like I wouldn't go to any classes, and I would like just know when the midterms are. I would read the whole book like the night before, and I would have really good memorization. I would show up and I would just get through it. And a couple of times though, like how little I went to class was apparent. I remember one time I showed up to class and I opened the door and everyone was taking a midterm, and I guess I had inputted it wrong into my phone, and I had no idea that we even had a midterm coming up because I had like no alert.
I think what you said a minute ago is like really key. It's like whether you're good at school. I mean, and I think, and then also like really being honest with yourself. Like for me, for example, my approach was different than yours. I never read anything. Like I actually didn't even buy the books for my classes most of the time. I just went to every class. So I could like ace the tests and all this and that. And I never like, I still to this day don't know how to study. I had like a 3.8 in college though. Like,
oh, wow.
You know what I mean? It was like, I never studied. I had a buddy it was a roommate of mine. We took a class together once. And by the end of the semester, he's like, "I will never do that again." He's like, "You were up all night long partying with your friends, and then you read my notes on the way across the parking lot to class. You got an A and I got a C." So like,
that's awesome.
But it's the same thing what you were saying. It's a good memory, but I think it's just like really like learning how you learn and then being able to kind of like go with that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And that's like, I don't know. It's one of those things where, I mean, there's this whole emphasis on like schooling and going to school and all this stuff. And like, don't get me wrong. Like, I definitely think there's like some important part about education. But I mean, at the same time, like literally everything I do nowadays doesn't really, I didn't pick it up at university. Like, I mean, yeah, typing essays might have helped a little bit for like blog posts. But I think if it did anything, it basically just kind of trained me a little bit to learn how to master something.
Yeah. I think if anything too, it just like teaches you how to like really focus on something that you want. You know what I mean? Because in high school, you don't want it. You're just like, I just want to get over this shit, you know?
And you can't really fail out. I mean, I guess you could fail out of high school, but for the most part, it's like, it's very hard to fail out of high school. With college though, like I remember at one point in time when I was an engineering student, I almost failed out because I wasn't like, because with that, it was definitely tougher to kind of BS.
You actually have to show the fuck up.
Oh yeah. You have to show up, you have to listen. And that was what kind of got me is I couldn't just read the book because most of like what we were learning was in class from the teacher.
See, and that's where I was saying, like, for me, I never read the book. So like, if I took a class that tested me on what we were supposed to have been reading, I was fucked. I will never forget the class that I took was an anthropology class. Yeah. And she would like be questioning you on like paragraph 2 of page 27 out of 70 that she wanted you to read, and I'd be screwed. But for the most part, just showed up. Yeah. So this is interesting. You know, a minute ago you were saying, actually, I don't know what my segue was there. I just screwed it all up. But I did have something I wanted to lead into. Is you guys do training as well, right?
Yeah. So we have, good.
So how did you go from a guy that was just like all in to like, I'm going to start teaching people this now? Like, what was the part when you're like, I know enough to start teaching people? Yeah.
So, I mean, I've always been kind of a teacher. So like in high school, I used to basically tutor my friends. Because I was really good at kind of breaking stuff down, explaining it, and I was also super patient. And then when I started mountain biking, I was completely self-taught. Like I maybe had like 1 or 2 guys who were like kind of telling me like what to do on like a certain ride. But for the most part, it was literally like me going out there like every day for like 6 hours and just being like, okay, this works, this doesn't work. And I like when I get into something, like I get into like like I want to master it.
Yeah, I had that same personality. I call it all or nothing, though. Are you the other way too?
Yeah,
so I'm like either 150% into it, or I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, and that's all. I have ADHD too, and so
yeah,
like, very kind of in line.
That's what it comes down to. It's me too.
And you basically like when you find something you're passionate about, like you're fully committed and like you want to master it. And so that's what like I taught myself it, and I was all self-taught. So like kind of. And I guess before I get into that part, I was working in bike shops too. And I was basically bouncing around from bike shop to bike shop. And I had a very like atypical, or I don't know if that's the right word I'm looking for, but very different experience than most bike shop employees. Because like I was really good at doing sales. And I know whoever's listening is probably like, Mo, you're all over the place. But the story will make sense eventually.
You know what's great, dude? I'm ADHD too, so I'm with you 100%. Fuck all these guys, dude.
But so basically, I was really good at working in a bike shop, and I would do sales. And this is like after I started to get like really good at mountain biking. I wasn't teaching anyone yet. I got into a job at a bike shop like to make some side money, and then I realized like really quickly like I was really good at talking to people, understanding what they wanted, and just kind of like the personality trait and kind of working that approach. And then sales like quickly became my thing, and I freaking had it dialed. And it wasn't that I was like selling people stuff that they didn't want. It was just like I was a really good kind of sales person, like because a lot of people when they come into a bike shop, most people for the most part, they're ready to buy a bike. Like they just need like a little bit of a nudge or some encouragement, and also some help in the right direction.
So the chat says that we're a little too ADHD for the rest of them.
Okay, so let's focus.
At one point, did you quit school, or did you
I
start doing this bike shop thing while you were still being an engineering student?
So I basically was an engineering student, and then I realized I wasn't doing that good there. I showed up to a meeting with my college counselor, and she's like, "You're about to flunk out. Like, we need to figure out a way to like diverge your major so you can major in something else." And I asked her, I was like, "Well, what am I closest to in a degree?" And she was like, "You're closest to it was a weird question for her, but she like looked it up, and she's like, "It looks like you're close to like a social ecology degree." And I was like, "Sweet, yeah, let's do that." And she's like, "You want?" She's like, "You don't want to like research it?" And I was like, "No, it's like, how close am I?" And she's like, "You're like right on track."
You're
I'm like, "Sweet, yeah, let's just sign me up for that. We need to get out of here. Like, we need a degree."
So you start doing bike shops just like as you're doing this stuff because you just want to A, be all in on bikes, and B, like you just want to make some money too.
Yeah, well, that was also like, so it was about 2 or 3 years into me riding. And I had been riding like every day. I'd become a respectable shredder.
Right.
And it was just like, I needed some side money. I was hanging out in bike shops, so I started working at one. And the first shop I worked for, like, it was good kind of hands-on experience. And then I remember I graduated from UCI, and that was basically like, okay, I'm done. Like, whoa, I finished that.
So you got this like crazy sociology degree.
I got this crazy social ecology degree. My parents were like confused. Yeah, they were confused, but at the same time, they're like, okay, maybe he like is going to be doing like a different route. It rhymes with psychology.
Right. They're stoked that you fucking graduated.
Dude, I barely even knew what social ecology was. That
right.
And I remember like when I graduated, like I really wanted to get a van, like a cargo van. I didn't know why. I like didn't even know what van life was at the time. And so I bought this like little Nissan van. It's very similar to like the small Ford Transits, like very like almost like a minivan, but like cargo vanish. And so I bought that when I graduated, and my parents are like confused, like red flags start to go up. Like, wait a minute, like why does he need this? And I didn't even know why I needed it. And I remember like I was traveling a bunch for mountain biking. I had quit my first bike shop job. And then
so when you bought it, you were thinking, I'm going to sleep in this?
No, when I bought it, I literally was like, my bike's not going to get stolen. I could put it in here. It won't get stolen. And I was like, maybe I could take like a nap, like if I'm ever working.
There you go.
It didn't occur that like so like all of this was like slowly formulating like this whole van life mo.
Right.
And then so I went for my first road trip, and I remember like I was a mountain biker. I just graduated college, and I was like, I'm going to go to Canada, like to Whistler. And I knew nowhere where I just knew that Whistler was north.
Right.
And I knew that's where I was going.
Right.
So I put a bed in my van, and I remember just taking off. And then when I took off, I got to Canada. I did this whole road trip. I came back home, and I was like, wow, I'm now what? Because like you're fresh out of college, like you really don't know what life is. And you're just so confused. You're like, wait a minute, like, so I did something. Because like, I mean, all throughout growing up, there's like stages, right? Like you go to middle school, then you have high school, college.
I'll tell you, when you have a goal to do something like that like at that age, and you actually accomplish it at that age, you actually didn't think about what comes after that. So like
I didn't. Yeah.
So like for me, like when I graduated high school, I was like, man, I'm not ready to like be grown up. I need money for college. My family's fucking broke. So I'm going to join the military. And all I've ever wanted to do was go to Germany. So like part of joining the military, I had that put in my contract. I get to Germany, and I'm like, that was like my big goal, was to like go live in Germany. And I'm like, okay, now I'm like, oh wait, now I need a new one. You know? I didn't put any thought into what happens after that. That was like as far as I needed to get. You know?
That's where I was. I was basically like, okay, what do I do? Like I accomplished something. Now what? Like,
and it's one of those things that just seems huge to you at that age.
Yeah,
you're like, oh, dude, yeah.
And
this is as far as I need to plan out, you know?
Yeah, and the tough thing is like every move you make, you're just like, wait a minute, was I supposed to do that? Because like there's no like real like kind of affirmative kind of feeling like, oh, you're doing good, Mo, like you're on the right path. Luckily, I had a couple of really good mentors who are like, I'd bounce ideas off them, and they're pretty like different to your typical like work, get a job, all this stuff. So it was cool. It was refreshing to hear that, wait a minute, because I didn't go like as my like fellow like college students went, I'm still like somewhat on the right path. But so I came back from my road trip. I started working at another bike shop. That's where I met Hannah originally.
So you met her at the bike shop?
Yeah, she was working at a bike shop too, at the Path bike shop.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I met her there.
LA?
It's in Tustin in Orange County.
Okay.
And
so for the rest of the world, what he just said was LA. So,
yeah, it was LA.
like LA actually has like this like 500-mile radius to the rest of the world. But if you live in LA, like every little city is like, oh no, that's not LA. I'm from Bakersfield. It's like, no, that's LA. No, I'm from Long Beach. No, that's LA. Like basically it's like LA goes from San Diego to San Francisco. So,
yeah, pretty much. Spoken like a true Californian, but
no, I'm not from California. That's why I can say it. It took me a while to learn.
Oh shoot, I thought yeah, no, that's pretty much like most people's view on us.
yeah. No, I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm actually from a city called York, like the peppermint patty. And because we were making the gangster jokes earlier, maybe somebody will pick up on this. I used to always joke around and say I'm from South Central PA. And most people wouldn't catch the P, so they'd be like, "Oh, this guy's tough, dude." No, fucking Pennsylvania, dude. That's where I'm from.
Yeah, I tell most people that I'm from LA. I don't say I'm from the Valley.
Right.
But
the Valley, I think, is like a bad term if you're from LA. If you're from Northern California, they're like, "What's the Valley?" I don't even know.
Okay, yeah,
it's like Fresno. Is that what you mean? You're from Fresno?
Yeah, that's I never really kind of know what people are going to think, but yeah, it's funny how everything kind of is summed up in that. But
so tell me how you met Hannah. You just showed up to work one day. She was like working the cash register or what?
So it's funny, like I showed up to work, and
it's like your first day, or like she had
been this was like this was like 2 or 3 weeks into working there, and I remember like I kind of saw her, like I met her and I was like, man, who is that? And because like normally like at that point I'd been mountain biking for about like I'd say 5 years now, and I'd been riding a ton, and like I got really good really fast, and like, I was just dialing it in.
Chick at a bike shop, she looks like she showers. I mean,
well, on top of it, well, the big thing was basically like the community here is really kind of close knit, and like everyone kind of knows anyone. And so I was all like, who is that? And then I remember kind of like talking to her like during our shifts, and I was like, oh, she seems kind of cool.
Right.
And then I remember, and I was still like relatively young at that point. I was probably like 20 years old, maybe 21.
Right. I mean, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. And but dude, so I remember someone went, I was like, oh, is Hannah coming to work today? And they were like, oh, she's like, she gets off school around 3. And I was all like, what? And I was like, what do you mean gets off school around 3? Is she like in college or something? And they were like, no, she's in high school. And I was like, what?
You're like, oh shit, I just fucked
like,
up.
Are you serious?
That's awesome.
And that's when I was like, okay, I am not pursuing this. And I slowly like kind of like kept my distance because I was like, I don't want to go to jail.
So a couple of weeks later, you're like, so is she a senior?
Are you?
Well, you're like, when does she graduate? Is she dumb? Did she maybe like, is she like a year behind? Please tell me she's a year behind.
No, I confirmed that all activities were illegal at that point. And that's when I was like, okay, we're not pursuing this. And I remember.
So at that point, she's like 17, or is she like?
Yeah, 20, she was like 12? 17. No, she was like 17 at that point. I think.
So you were like, get in my van.
Yeah, I was like,
I'm sorry, dude. You just set me up some great jokes here.
No, it's fine. Well, most people, this is a funny joke because I remember, and this is like another thing, like I was, me and Hannah are both vegan. So we're both plant-based.
Right.
And I remember like, I always joke with people, like most vegan people, especially like when they first go vegan, like it's very hard for stuff to kind of register with them. They kind of have like this, like, oh, I need to post and tell everyone type deal. And like, it really does apply for a majority of vegans. Some people like don't go through that. And I remember when I had started working there, I was kind of in that phase a little bit.
Dude,
and then
I'm gonna cut you off. Please
go ahead.
keep your train of thought. But it just reminds me of this joke I heard the other day.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was on Slack with the other YouTubers or whatever, and it was like, if a vegan and a CrossFitter and a YouTuber walk into a room, like, who's gonna tell you the most about what they're into?
Yeah.
Because holy shit, dude, I can't stop talking about fucking YouTube and the CrossFit.
Yeah, well, it would be like if me and BKXC and you walked into a room, dude.
Right? We're fucked.
Well, it's just like there, and I mean, I'm to the point now where like it's funny, like it's just like this natural, like if you like transition to like plant-based, there's like some things you kind of go through. And
so
I was kind of going through.
What got you into being vegan? Was it like your upbringing? Because I know a lot of Middle Eastern, like they have a vegan culture. So
I was as far from being vegan growing up, even until like, I mean, it was literally like after I graduated college, I was like the biggest meat eater, like insanely. And then I had one of the mentors I was telling you about. He was a good friend of mine. At that point, like I said, I'd been riding for like 4 or 5 years by that point. I was getting really good. I wanted to get better. I wanted to basically take that jump and just hit that next level. And I remember his recovery was insane, like from a muscle recovery perspective. And we would go out for these like hammer fests, like 50 miles, 9,000 feet of climbing. And I'd be like, dude, how do you recover so fast? And he like explained to me his diet, how he was trying to increase blood flow. And he was plant-based at the time. And then literally like I listened to everything and I was all like, kind of like, and then he kind of explained like the other aspects of like
made sense to you.
It made sense. And literally that day, like I went vegan and I remember I was still living with my parents a little bit, but I also had the van. And I remember telling my mama like, hey, like she like served dinner and I was like, like I can't eat that anymore. And she's all like, why?
Right.
I was like, well, I'm vegan now. And then she's like, well, what can you eat? And I was like, I don't know. Let me Google this. I asked to Google.
Alexa, what is a vegan?
What is that? So I remember when I was
She's talking to us right now. Alexa, stop.
Shoot, you actually have
Sorry, I have her in here. I knew she was going to do it.
But I remember, so when I was at the path, I was kind of going through like my whole like posting about veganism and stuff. And I remember Hannah was like, you're freaking insane. Like, what are you... You're so weird, Mo. And I was all like, yeah, whatever. And she wasn't at the time.
So we're pulling back into the story.
Yeah, we're pulling back. Sorry.
I did that. That was my fault.
No, you're good.
So she wasn't a vegan. You were. Yeah.
And so I had realized that she was way too young. And like, I didn't want to go to jail either because there was no mountain biking in jail. And at that point, I was like starting to like become really good at sales. Like, it was literally like cranking out like freaking 5 to 6 bikes a day.
Me so good. So
I know.
You're like, I was really good at sales. She was underage. She was not in. All she did was eat meat all day. And I was like, look, let me tell you about this. I'm living in a van. And as soon as you hit 18, it's legal.
I'm setting myself up.
So you're really good at sales. She's a vegan or not a vegan, but apparently
so that's
ready to be like converted.
No, actually not whatsoever. So I'm really good at sales at that point. I'm like, it got to the point where like I started looking at my paycheck and like what I was making, and it was literally like pennies compared to like what I was bringing into that bike shop. And that was like, I was like, man, I'm making $14 an hour. I'm selling like 5 to 6 bikes a day. And then I was all like, this doesn't make sense. And like, I asked for a raise and I was expecting like a pretty substantial raise. And I think like, he was like, yeah, dude, I completely agree. You're like the #1 like guy right now in terms of sales. I'll give you like a 25-cent raise per hour. And I was like, what? That doesn't make sense. Like the numbers aren't making sense like on paper.
You're all, did you know that I used to be an engineering student? I actually know how the math thing works.
And then so that's when I just quit. And it was kind of weird too, because like most bike shop employees, like there's this whole kind of like, you need to stay at your bike shop and have this loyalty thing.
Right.
But so I like just quit and then I traveled and then I came back and I went into another shop and I was like, hey, I'll sell bikes. You want me to sell bikes for you? And they're like, yeah, sure. And so they brought me on, and like my job quickly just became like selling bikes, like show up whenever you want, Mo.
So you left Hannah at the other shop when you quit?
I did. I left that. I left all that legal.
Like, I'm over her. She's not 18.
Yeah. And so like I went about like my stint of like just working in bike shops, selling bikes, making money, and then quitting my job and traveling. But like when I was working in the shops, like I would meet like all of these reps. I would talk to all of these reps, and like I quickly learned like the whole industry thing from there. So like I was sitting in at sales meetings for like national sales meeting with Santa Cruz Bicycles, like really weird things that, because I was so passionate about riding and I had like no other commitments besides mountain biking, I was able to like literally just like submerge myself in mountain bike culture. And I learned so much, met all these people through traveling and all this stuff. Fast forward like 3 years of doing this. I started to teach people how to mountain bike on the side. Like there was this one girl who was all like, hey, her name is Danielle. And we joke that like she's our spirit mom. That she was basically like, I need some mountain bike lessons. And then I basically became her coach.
Right.
And it was basically just a side thing, like $100 for a lesson, like on the side. I wasn't even like, and then so I started teaching, and then she like made leaps and bounds in terms of improvement. Like insane.
You're like, holy shit, I might actually be fucking good at this.
And then she started referring people over to me. And that's when I was like, wait, what? And so like people started getting my number, and like I would coach them, and then they would refer to me their friends. And like all of a sudden, like I had all of this business, and I didn't even consider myself like a mountain bike coach, like professionally.
Or a businessman.
Yeah. And so I was just making the side money to basically allow me to like basically quit my job whenever I wanted and just travel. And it was just this crazy, like I was basically being like that typical surfer van life kid. I also surf too. And it was just like I was kind of living my life and doing my thing.
Are you in still the old Nissan van?
No. So I don't know if you guys can tell, like we are like,
no, I mean at that point in your life.
Oh, I'm still in the Nissan van. Yeah. And I remember looking,
I saw a picture of an old like black van. Was that the one on your Instagram?
Dude, I'll send you a picture. I'll text it to you.
Okay.
Dude, what me and Hannah used to live in. So that's gonna.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah. So we digress. So keep going. So
yeah. So basically, at this point, I'm coaching on the side, but I'm not realizing, because like everything's kind of just happening, and I'm not realizing that I'm making way more money coaching than I am in bike shops.
Right.
And at this point, I'm like looking at everything, and I'm like, wait a minute. Like I'm spending like X amount of hours here and making this much, but I'm coaching this amount of time. And I was like, it just kind of wasn't clicking. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go full-time mountain bike coach.
Right.
And at that point, I basically like started coaching full-time, and I had so much business kept coming in. And like, my theory was, well, if I'm not good at what I do, people won't keep coming back. Because I was charging like pennies at that point.
Yeah.
So people just kept coming back. And at that point, I was like, I'm just going to go full time with this.
Right. Makes sense.
Along the lines of that, I looked on Instagram, and Hannah was posting all of this, like losing her stuff, dude. Like,
you can say shit on my channel.
Shit, yeah. Like losing her shit, like just freaking unreal, dude. Like, she's posting all this vegan stuff, and I remember looking at it, and this was like 3 years later. I'm looking at
You're like, wait a minute, I thought she was a meat eater.
And I was all like, you little well, she had just started. I was all like, you could I was like laughing to myself, like, now you know like how it felt like when you called me weird.
Right. So she used to bag on you for being a vegan.
Yeah, and then she became one. Yeah, and it was like the most funniest thing. And then you I remember,
better not fucking rub off on me, dude. I really like chicken wings.
Dude, don't even. Most people know we keep it to ourselves, and
it's all right.
And then so I texted her, like, this was like fast forward 3 years, like, and then we started hanging out. And at this point, I'm still in my van, and we're hanging out for like a solid month. And
so at this point, she's 17.
No. you gotta watch out.
3 years later. No, okay, now she's actually overage. Okay, cool.
Now she's 20.
Okay, cool.
And I remember like we were hanging out. I think I was like either 24 or 25. Most likely 24 at that point. And I remember we were hanging out for like a month, and the way Hannah, like when you first meet her, she's like very shy, and she like doesn't really kind of like, she doesn't,
once you get to know her.
Dude, so like a month goes by and I'm like, what the hell? Like, what? We're hanging out all the time, like every day, but I can't tell if she's like into me. And then it was just kind of like one night where like we were hanging out or something like that. And like after that night, like I knew, like I was like, well, no, she's definitely into me. And after that, it was basically we would just hang out like every day. And I remember one time she asked me for the keys to my Nissan because she had to like go run an errand or something like that. And when she came back, she had already she moved in. Like she like
she's like, can I have the keys? By the way, I'm moving the fuck in.
And at that point, like, dude, if I send you that, that's
you got in the van and all your stuff you had around the driver's seats all moved over to the passenger seat. She's like, hey, sorry, I rearranged.
If I Hannah, do you think you can find that picture by any chance? I think she's in her own world.
It's all right.
Dude, we were basically like, it was mental. Can you find that picture and just text it to him?
So, like, so you went from, at this point, you're still in the old Nissan, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about the upgrade. How'd you upgrade? So, because now you stepped it up. You got the girl.
Yeah.
She's legal. She's vegan. She's into mountain biking.
Dude, we think we are the absolute like bomb.com. Like we're living. And dude, she's sending that picture to you right now. We're basically sleeping on this cot that's smaller than a twin size bed with 2 bikes inside the van as well. And we are just freaking like, we think we're the freaking like the absolute shit. Like just we're these hippies. We don't need much else. We don't need that much room. And people are looking at us like, no, that's weird. And I was like, why are they looking at us? And we had actually thought about starting YouTube then. So we started taking all this footage of ourselves. And then I remember it's funny. So
when you guys first started thinking YouTube, were you thinking like van life YouTube, or were you thinking like mountain bike YouTube?
We didn't really know. Kind of like a combination of both. I think originally our first concept was like, we might do like van life and travel. Mm-hmm. And then I was coaching, and then I started coaching full time.
So were you watching other people do this stuff, or it was just like kind of like oh, I think I could put this on YouTube, and I don't know what else is out there, but I think I could do this too? No,
we were literally just like, I think we can do this.
Right. So you weren't watching van life, you weren't watching mountain bike YouTube. You were just like, oh, YouTube, that sounds like a cool thing.
Yeah, like I'm as you saw before we set up the show, like I'm technologically like handicapped with certain things. Mm-hmm. I was like, I didn't really understand what YouTube was. And the funny thing is, BKXE, like he actually hit me up on Instagram and said, hey, dude, do you want to ride? And so I remember going up to NorCal to ride with him. And I'm not sure if he was confused that I didn't have any cameras with me. But like, I didn't really even understand what he did fully. I like knew he was a YouTuber. But like, I was like, I missed the part where you said who you were talking about. I started reading the chat. Who were you talking about right there? BKXE. Like,
okay. So this was like, so you agreed to meet with BKXE. You had no clue who he was. I kind of knew that he did like YouTube. I didn't even understand it was a thing. Right.
And then so he like started telling me, he's like, dude, you kind of have the personality of like doing YouTube. And I think I started a channel and I put up some like video clips of me, and he like was super nice to me. And that's why like I really look up to BKXE, is because dude, I wasn't even a YouTuber at that point. And he like was reaching out, like giving me all these tips. And it was just super solid.
He saw it.
Yeah, super solid of him. And so like at that point, like we had just started our mountain bike coaching full time. And it was kind of like in line. Oh no, that was actually a little bit after. So we decided we needed a little bit more room, and we looked at like, there's 2 people now. We can bring in like 2 different incomes and whatnot. Let's step up to a Mercedes Sprinter van. Mm-hmm. So I remember we went to the dealership and we bought the van. And
so that's a big deal for those of you guys that aren't in the van life like world. The Mercedes is, I mean, just I guess it's the same as the car world. I mean, that's the creme de la creme. That's the expensive one.
Yeah, I just texted you the picture of the old one. But yeah, the new one is like super big. Yeah, so I remember we went to the Mercedes dealership and we did a bunch of research before. And we actually have like a full van tour coming out soon, and the reason why we went Mercedes. But long story short, we're like, let's just get one and let's build it. And by now we're watching van life content. Dude, we had absolutely no idea what went into building a van. And the funnest part about everything is, so we bought this van and we literally, we built it while living in it, like in a Home Depot parking lot. Dude, and like,
dude, that's the best way to do it though, because you actually don't have far to go to the store.
Oh, dude, we had no idea, like we had no prior carpentry skills. Like I had never used a drill. I had never used like a jigsaw, and like all we had was a jigsaw, a drill, a hammer, and like some screwdrivers. And literally, like, we built this entire van, like, while living in it.
Nice.
Like, in the Home Depot parking lot. And then we started the Awesome MTB coaching full-time. And then after that, it was basically just this spiral forward. And I was all like, maybe I should start a YouTube channel for marketing for coaching. And
when
so
did you start your channel? I don't know how long your channel's been up.
About 7 months ago.
So 7 months, and you're at like almost like 6,500, 6,300, something like that.
Yeah, I think like right around 6,300 last time I checked.
Yeah.
But
that's really good, dude. That's really good. What do you attribute your growth to?
I would say the fact that we actually have time. I would say that's probably the biggest thing. I mean, obviously, like
personality has something to do with that.
Personality also. I mean, personality. Hannah. I mean, I'm sure Hannah's like a huge part of it as well.
Yeah, you know, I did watch like I said to you before we started, like it's just impossible for me to watch everybody's channels and have my own. And I was watching some stuff between the two of you guys, and she's as a person that's shy to start out, she's definitely got a good personality on camera.
Yeah, and I mean, so that's where I say like time definitely helps. I mean, so a lot of people kind of get into YouTube from what I've seen. And the biggest factor is like they normally have like a full-time job that's not mountain biking. But like with me,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And it's like for those people, I give like huge props. Like I can only imagine like how hard that is. But for us, like mountain biking is literally my life. Like I coach, and that's like my job, and that's riding. I travel, we live in a van. And so we kind of have, it was funny, like some people, I feel like and this is just like based off of my personal observations, like they structure like the life they live around what they want their content to become. For us, it was literally, we had the life that we were doing. And then we're like, wait a minute, we check all of these boxes that like, I feel like would be enjoyable content. Like we live in a van, we ride mountain biking for a living, and we travel literally all over North America. Like, why don't we actually document this? So I guess my only regret is that we didn't start it sooner. It's because like I've been to a lot of really rad places that most people have never been. Like I've surfed on like an island off of Canada, like Vancouver Island, Tofino. I've been to like these really random spots in like the middle of nowhere for riding. I've ridden with like some gnarly shredders, pro riders, ridden with Gwyn and all this stuff. And I didn't even know what YouTube was when I was doing any of that. So
yeah, I know. And I think a lot of us that you do YouTube, we all look back and feel that same way. But at the end of the day, there's so much more life to live, right?
And dude, I look back and like, it's crazy because the way I envision like at one point in time, because the mentors that I had like played a huge role into like who I became. And like, I hopefully, I do work with a lot of Groms, but I do envision like down the line, maybe like a kid my age, like when I used to be 20, like a 20-year-old will come to me when I'm 40 and be like, hey dude, like, let's ride bikes, and like start bouncing questions off me. And if anything, like, go ahead.
So what was it that the mentor did for you that really stands out? Not necessarily like the particular thing itself, but like what kind of direction did they give you that you really, because you keep like pulling back to the, like, you were really happy about those people that you've had in your life.
Oh, for sure.
So like what part of that was it that made it so good?
So number one is that those mentors that I looked up to, they were people that didn't work typical jobs. So like one of my best friends, he's a surfboard shaper. And like, he's very like, just keeps to himself, his own little bubble. And like, when I would kind of bounce ideas off of him, like, hey dude, like, I think, because at one point in time, I was also going to get a teaching credential after I graduated college, because I thought that I had to do something else. And I started it and I just dropped out right away. And I remember asking him before I dropped out, I was like, I don't know, dude, like, what, kind of feel like the pressure is on to be a certain way. And he's like, dude, it's your life. Like, it'll all pan itself out. And like, he was just kind of there for like crucial moments where I kind of needed just someone to be like, yo, it's not the end of the world if you don't follow the typical path. Because I mean, for the most part, like, I consider myself to have taken a path that maybe was a little bit less chosen. Like, I did,
I see what you're saying.
But then I jumped ship and I basically started living in a van. I started riding, try to make mountain biking my life, try to make mountain biking work. And it was just kind of like all these like weird different things that like there in society, I don't feel like there's enough, like there's like this typical straight and narrow path that like, if you're on it, you get a lot of encouragement from like society and like from your parents.
Like people don't embrace the vagabond lifestyle.
Yeah.
Is what you're trying to say.
And so when you choose like a different path, even though you're putting in like a ton of effort into that path, you're not getting that encouragement and that kind of like, okay, Mo, you're on the right path. So you question it and you're like, wait a minute.
It's quite simple, even just like to break it down for anybody out there. It's like, tell somebody that you're a YouTuber and the first thing they do is roll their eyes. They're like, oh, so what do you do like for a job? You're like, no, I'm a YouTuber. No, what do you know what I mean? Like,
and now try and tell your Lebanese parents that you're not only a YouTuber, but you also live in a van and you ride mountain bikes for a living.
Right.
Like, and see how that plays out. So they're just
not
like
very well.
Yeah, and so the mentors were almost like the support I needed, the confidence back in like, hey, I can do this. And I feel like a lot of people, there's a lot of very creative kids out there that I'm worried at some point in time, they might want to actually follow their passions and may not actually like have the encouragement from like parents or from society to actually pursue those passions.
The one thing that I've learned one of the things that I've learned in my life is always chase your passion. And if you chase your passion and you're honest with yourself, you'll be successful. Like, you can't chase your passion and be like, I want to be an astronaut and not go to college or not learn how to fly a plane. But you can chase your passion and be honest, like, hey, I'm actually good at what I'm running after. Like, let's just say, for me, example, when I was younger, like I wanted it to be in the music industry. So it was like, chase your passion. Yeah, I could have a band and try to get famous, or I could go to school to be like a studio engineer and then also maybe go to school and try to learn how like radio happens to get into that. So like, chase your passion, be honest with yourself. And then whenever that's not your passion anymore, don't feel like you can't pivot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so like for me in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, whatever, I've been doing IT and now I'm pivoting. Like, I really enjoy YouTube.
And
it's not paying my bills yet, but I'm being honest with myself and we'll see where it goes, you know?
And there's also, I mean, there's the amount that you want it too. So like for me and for like what we're doing, like a lot of people, I feel like I've definitely seen it. Like with certain people, I say like, oh yeah, like we live in a van and we ride mountain bikes. And like the first kind of response is like, oh, this kid, like he just kind of like plays around like all day. And like what they don't see is like, I mean, right now the amount of time and effort that we've put into everything, like whether it was the van build or whether it was starting Awesome MTB, whether it was starting the whole coaching. So like from 5 a.m. to like midnight, like owning your own business, like is insane in terms of like effort. And so I just kind of see it. They don't see like the behind, they just kind of see like the whole riding mountain bikes for a living. They don't necessarily see like all of the hours of effort that kind of went into actually building this and getting it to a point that we can.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. I tell people about it whenever I started my channel. I'm like, could you imagine going to your job and working 40 hours a week for like a year and then making $100? Because that's about how it went with my channel. I mean, like, everybody has a different like little road of their success on YouTube, but that's how it went for me, where it was like, dude, I really did a 40-hour job for a year for free.
Yeah. That's basically how it is. But you put the effort in to kind of get to where you're at. And I mean, the same can I even like with our van, right? Like, so our van build, like most people say like, oh, you guys live in a van. Like, that's so cool. We should do that too. And like, I always encourage people to explore their van life option, but also know like, dude, the amount of freaking effort and like I think at one point me and Hannah almost broke up because we not only were we building the van, we were also living in it while building it, like sleeping next to like cut wood shavings on the floor of the van. And dude, I remember there was, and I've never really given up on something that I've really wanted before, but at some point in time, there was actually a moment where I was like, I don't know if I'm in way too deep right here. Like,
I recently had that with my channel even, where I was like, dude, am I just fucking fooling myself?
Yeah, and
like, what the fuck, man?
You get and that's like with anything that's like yours, and like it's all because like it's funny. A lot of people kind of, my parents in particular too, they kind of think like the path, like you're riding mountain bikes for a living, you're doing YouTube, like, oh, that's easier than getting a real job. I would say, if anything, like anytime you choose to become self-employed, like that is way harder and way riskier than getting a job with a company where you're guaranteed a paycheck. You're kind of guaranteed work if you show up, do a good job, and just execute. With the small business approach, like, dude, you can freaking do all the freaking boxes and just have a shitty month. And you're not getting paid. And so it's like, it's one of those where like there's so many kind of risk and all this stuff. But if anything, what I think would actually benefit society is if explaining this like in high school, dude. Like if I learned about this stuff from like an earlier age, I feel like I would have been way more prepared for like all of the like hurdles and stuff. Obviously, there's only so much you could teach about van life. But
I think podcasts and YouTube channels, like this in particular, where people are being honest about the trials and tribulations, because it's really easy to like be a high school kid and see, oh, look at Mo, dude, he's like living in a van, he's got a beautiful lady and they're happy and they're just driving around the world, freaking riding bikes. That's awesome. And like to have a forum like this where they can actually hear the truth of the matter. You know, I watched a van life video not too long ago. It was like one of the big van lifers, and they were like, these are like the 10 things that nobody thinks about in van life. And they like broke it down like on the reel. They were like, hey, you're pooping like 2 feet away from the person that you love. like you guys got to be on a level. You know, like this is not like, oh, okay, you stay in the kitchen, I'm gonna go here and drop a deuce. No, dude, it's fucking happening right here.
Dude, there's times where you open the pee bottle and the pee bottle has been sitting for too long and the whole fucking van smells like piss. And there's a lot of, and that's the other tough part too, is with content creation, especially YouTube. It's anyone can YouTube and anyone can put any content out there. And so what we tend to see in the van, because we also look at van life content as well. Yeah. And so we see some van lifers that are just literally pulling out of their freaking behind, dude. Like, it's just like
it's all drone shots and fucking
drone
beaches,
shots and beaches and bikinis and all this stuff. And you're just we're watching those videos and we're like, that's not real. Like that's like, where's your pee bottle? Like, where's the van that becomes a mess after like an hour of freaking living in it?
There's you know, and that's the dichotomy of the thing though, is like, is if you really show it, is like people actually don't want to fucking see the real thing, you know, like, because there's been some times in my channel where I was being super transparent. And I came to find out like people actually don't want me to be that transparent. You know, like, so I can understand it, but on the other hand, it's like, to me, like there's a part of me where it's like, I want to show it how it really is, man.
So with our content, I mean, we'll never show ourselves like peeing in or Hannah's got like what I call basically like we call it her penis, basically, where it's basically like a pee funnel.
Is this crossing the line? I don't know if we're crossing the line right now. You might want to check your relationship.
No, she's fine. It's more so, is this gonna kind of affect your channel? That
no, I'm good, dude. My channel is way good, dude. Believe me, these guys are fucking idiots. No, I'm just kidding.
it's this pee funnel system that basically allows her to like pee like in a bottle.
I've seen that, dude. Lots of chicks talk about they always wanted one, and then fucking Amazon has that shit.
So we've actually seen some van lifers like video themselves as they're peeing, And we're just like, whoa, like that. I mean, obviously it's the real thing, but like
that wasn't YouTube. That was Pornhub, dude.
that was fun. It was funny, like talking about Pornhub. Me and Al, I'm not sure I can bring up. I can't go into detail on this conversation, but we basically had a really good conversation on we tried predicting what type of porn different YouTubers watch or YouTubers watch.
Oh God.
But yeah,
I don't know. I don't even want to ask what you guys thought I was.
I don't think I could disclose any information from that conversation.
That sounds awesome. That's going to be on my biker camp fucking Jeopardy this year, dude. It's going to be Billy MTB rider for 1,000. What kind of porn is he watching?
Dude, it was a really good conversation. So it was fun, Matt. But yeah, so like with our content, obviously you won't see any of us kind of actually using the P jug, but like we're not like, we'll show our van completely freaking rattled mess wise. Right. We show like the whole reality of it.
You guys have a dog too, right?
No dog here.
No dog. Okay.
Yeah, we want a dog, but we just feel like it wouldn't be fair for the dog, like right at this point in time. Just because, I mean, the dog would probably be sitting on its own for a good amount of time in the van, and it just we wouldn't feel good about it.
Yeah. I mean, you got to get a solid trail dog if you're going to be like running the shit out of them, you know?
Yeah. And then also dogs bark. And I'm the type of person like with dog stuff, like obviously you want your dog to kind of be well trained so that they don't affect like someone else, like they don't bite someone else.
Yeah.
But in terms of like actual training, like I'm not too into the whole, like put the shock collar on so the dog never barks. Like a dog is a dog. Like,
yeah.
And so
I'll tell you this right now, Mo, like a lot of that depends on the dog itself.
Yeah.
And also it depends on the people that are training it. Like, honestly, like you don't have to put a shock collar on a dog to keep it from barking, but some dogs are just barkers. Like it's like a roll of the dice when you get a dog. You don't necessarily
and the tough part for us is we would definitely adopt if we were to get a dog. And it's just when we're in these residential neighborhoods sleeping at night and trying to be quiet, like in the van, like to have a dog that might bark and give us away, or if not give us away, someone will be like, dude, so funny story. This is like a side story, but when I used to have that Nissan, dude, I had someone walking by my van and he took his skateboard and he bashed my rear window in.
Why?
And I remember, dude, he did it right in front of my face. And I remember I was eating an acai bowl. For those of you that don't know what acai bowl is, it's us Southern California is like our magical berry fruit, like all this like toppings, granola and stuff. But I remember like seeing him do that, and dude, I'm not a fighter, and so I was like eating my bowl. I was like, dude, like, why'd you do that? And he's like looking at me, and he's like so shocked, like we're come face to face. And I'm like decently bigger than him, so I think he got a little intimidated. And I was like, what? And then he just goes, I thought there was a dog in there, and dude, just walks away. And I just remember just watching him walk away. But so that's a side note story about dogs.
I know, I can understand that. And there's definitely some people that are a little freaking high strung about that shit in California.
But we definitely want a dog, but for right now with the van life and stuff, we're kind of keeping it. We're having trouble taking care of ourselves. So
yeah, I mean, fuck the dog. You might as well just have a baby. You know?
Yeah, no baby anytime soon here, dude. The world is not ready for another. I always joke around, like I'm a pretty stubborn person, and I'm definitely I'm very like charged mentality in terms of like my thinking. And it's funny because my dad is the same way. And my dad always used to joke, like raising me, I was very stubborn. Like, man, you're my punishment for like how I treated my parents.
Right.
And he's all like, your punishment's going to be worse. And so I can only imagine how stubborn and how chaotic my kid would be.
So let's talk bikes a little bit.
Yeah.
What are you riding?
So it's funny. The joke is right now that I'm riding a generic Firebird 29.
Why is it generic? What's generic about a Firebird?
So I covered my logos with masking tape. And so it's basically, there's no logos on the bike, but it is a Pivot Cycles Firebird 29. I just chose to cover the logo.
Just like it, that it just looks cooler.
No, it was more so we had a point in time. So like with our coaching and with riding and with social media and content creation, where we tried reaching out to a couple of companies to kind of see if they wanted us on board or if they kind of wanted to like any kind of ambassador support or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, like, I was never a racer. Like when I had friends that I would ride with, we were growing up, like I had some friends that were racers.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, we're going to become pro racers or we're going to start racing. That's how you get sponsorships. And I was just as good at them as them, but I looked at racing and I was like, man, there is so much competition there. And it is such a freaking tight knit. And like, unless you're like top 1%, like how much money is there really in it? So that's when I like kind of took social media and the coaching approach to mountain biking. Mm-hmm. We were both just as good, but I would even say, like, and that's not to toot my own horn, that like my content creation was better than them because they were so focused on racing.
Right. So how does that come into you covering up the logo on your bike?
Yeah. So that's when so I would just basically like live to ride bikes, and I would create all this content. I would take videos of myself on these bikes. I really focused on Instagram content. And then we got picked up by a couple of like weird Chinese app companies. Mm-hmm. That we basically create content for them. They're not mountain bike affiliated, but they want our content that they're sharing on their platform.
Okay.
And then we started looking at like our views and our impressions and our reach, and it was reaching so many people. And I was like, wait a minute, like this is like marketing, like free marketing for these companies.
Right.
And so that's when because you know too, like gear gets expensive, your time, all that stuff. And so like I was creating all this stuff and I felt like I was also selling bikes for these companies, specifically Pivot. Uh-huh. And then like when I started asking these companies like, hey, do you think you would want to be on board like the Awesome MTB program, maybe some rider support? We'd always get turned down just because it was like, you're a YouTuber and you're a social media, you coach, like the racing wasn't there. They wanted like, oh, what's your race resume? What's your like that profile? And then for me, like the whole reaching out to someone was very awkward to begin with. And then to like have like just continuously being shot down. And then that's when I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to cover my logos. And eventually if someone wants to support the program, I feel like that would lead to the most natural relationship between me and a company.
Do you feel like it's wrong and like not promoting the bike that you're riding though? I mean, at the end of the day, dude, that's the bike that you chose, like regardless of if that puts money in your pocket. I mean, that's the bike that you chose too.
Yeah, but from a marketing perspective, it's kind of the same with other sports. Like in certain industries, like if you're not sponsored by a certain company, like you cover up your logos. And that's not to say like I have a vendetta against Pivot Cycles. It's that I see how many people my posts and my content and my videos are reaching. Yeah. And I just don't like, if I'm going to do anything with my logos, I'm going to put patreon.com/awesomemtb like on my bike. Because those are people.
I totally understand where you're coming from. I disagree with you, but I understand where you're coming from. I have a similar thing with Santa Cruz. I mean, obviously I love Santa Cruz bikes. And I've reached out to them and they could give a fuck about me. Some fat dude that doesn't have a lot of like 100,000 subscribers or 200,000 subscribers. I totally get where you're coming from. I just feel like, I feel like if I ran a marathon with Nike shoes on, like Nike should get some freaking cred for that, because I mean, those are the ones I used. You know what I mean?
No, and I kind of get that, but like, so going kind of hand in hand with that, I wouldn't consider if I ran a marathon right now, like today, like with Nike shoes, like I don't consider myself a professional runner or.
I see what you're saying.
But with mountain biking, like I value, and it's all those things like.
Dude,
like
let me say this. Like I'm not upset with you or your decision of whatever. I'm having a conversation. I just we don't know each other. You know what I mean? We don't know each other.
I like it too, because we're actually working on an article where I'm actually typing out the exact because I feel like I can formulate better with written words. So like for me, like it's all that like what do you value what you're putting out at? And for me, like I see the content I'm putting out and I see the effort and the passion that I'm putting out. And all the reach as well. And I see a value in that. And so you reach out to a company, you're like, hey, like I see the value in this as X. That company says no. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to cover the logos, and it just basically, it's another form of, I don't know. And I'm sure like to some people, it probably sounds like, oh, he's like childish or anything like that. But like for me personally, it's just kind of like the value I place on the stuff I create.
I can totally understand both sides of the argument. Like, honestly, and like that's what I'm getting at. Like, I'm not looking down on your decision, whichever. I'm just stating mine. You know what I mean? Like, because mine's obviously not right. Yours is not right. Like, nobody's is right.
No one's right.
Who's agreeing?
And I would say,
you know what I mean?
If there's anyone that's more different from the opinion in this situation, it's probably me. Because I mean, if you look at like a majority of YouTube content creators, like I don't think anyone's blocking out their logos.
No, that's definitely. Yeah, you're definitely.
I'm on my own, so I could be completely wrong. But at the end of the day, like it's funny, like these last couple, and dude, we travel to so many places, and like we meet so many people, freaking ride all these different trails. And now when I look at my bike and I don't see that big logo from a company, and I guess it's more of like it's part of like this is my passion, and this company like is choosing not to support like all of the effort and kind of
no I totally get it. I know a company that'll make you a logo that says Mo Awesome in their font and match your paint color.
So the funniest thing and stickered, and so someone actually brought that up and we should reach out to them. But dude, so putting the blue masking tape, this is where the funniest thing. So it started off as, I remember there was this one day
you should use green, then you can like green screen like whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah. But so I remember when I first like did it, I woke up and I was like, you know what? This is ridiculous. Like I am done reaching out to companies. And also with mountain biking, here's the crazy, like I feel like with mountain biking, it's almost somewhat of a cliquey like sport with certain things. Like with racing, it's definitely cliquey. And then like what I start to kind of realize, like now, even with like company or company support, like unless you know someone in that company or you know a guy or you know, like it's very rare unless you're like a top level racer for that company to like want to support you if you reach out or if they do.
Totally, dude. I mean, but that's life in general, man.
Well, I completely get it.
That's why like a lot of the connections that I've got so far, they've come down to me by like geographically, I'm in a good spot.
Yeah, and
you know, there's a lot of YouTubers that are in freaking Minnesota or Florida or whatever. They can't roll down to the Bay Area and be inside of like 10 different companies' places. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so yeah, dude, some of it is like who you know, but I mean it's that way in any industry, dude, in any walk of life.
And I completely get that too. And the other thing that I want people to know too is at the end of the day, like company choosing not to support someone, like they're justified to make that. It's their company. Like
just as well as you are. You know what I mean? Like you are 100% okay to tape your shit up, dude. Like nobody there should be no fucks given because that's your fucking prerogative. It's your fucking channel. You can do whatever the hell you want. You know what I mean? Like that's cool with me, dude. I feel like
and so the coolest thing about like all of it is like now that I look at my bike, I'm just like, whoa, like that feels so much better. And on top of that too, like my mentality is, okay, like I don't want to be part of this whole kind of click style system where like only people who know someone are going to get deals and all this stuff. I'm just like, I create the content I want to make. I have this passion that I am freaking thriving for. Like this is all just me and like my stuff, and like Hannah is in there, and it's just us kind of doing what we're doing. And if a company sees potential in what we are doing, I think like the relationship I would want with that company, because I've seen some YouTubers to where they get that sponsorship that was kind of like landed through like the typical sponsorship fashion, and then you watch their content and it's just like advertising garbage where it's just like it feels like a whole paid infomercial, and you're just like, I don't want that. Like, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. And if a company like sees the potential in supporting us, because I'm not an idiot, like I know how to do subtle marketing, and we're going to reach people and we're going to help that company out. But if a company wants to be a part of that, I feel like that is more of the relationship I would want. And
I don't know. This worldwide cyclery hat that I'm wearing right now is probably the most comfortable hat that I've ever had in my life. Next to this Tasco shirt that I'm wearing right now. And you can go check those all out at TascoMTB.com or worldwidecyclery.com. But aside from that, I don't have a fucking clue what you're talking about.
I'm not, that's not a shot at you whatsoever.
But I just took that opportunity to go ahead and throw them out there.
So with worldwide cyclery, so those guys are,
hang on. I need to get some tape for this because these motherfuckers don't deserve anything, man.
And it's like, and at the end of the day, like the only thing you could do is kind of laugh at yourself as well. Like with me, like I just kind of laugh at like what I'm doing sometimes when I see the masking tape. But the crazy thing is, like, a lot of people told me like, hey, why didn't you like do it classier, like make this custom kit? Dude, the painter's tape has stood out so freaking much that we have actually started to get offers like for riding support. Like I think we've gotten like 5 offers in the last week since I've done it, which is insane. So like that's just,
if 3M gets in, they're a much bigger company.
And I would rather have a non-bike company, but as of right now, the only people reaching out are in the bike industry.
So those of you guys that are listening to this podcast right now, I got a Lagunitas IPA in front of me, but I also have this 3M 100-mile-an-hour freaking tape that I just went ahead and put right over the label. This gray label right here is now just not Lagunitas. This is not Lagunitas I'm drinking anymore. I'm writing this with a marker B-E-E-R, or if I'm Jeff Lanowski, I can throw it backwards and say it's Reed, and now I have a sponsorship. So I mean, what the fuck?
That's, dude, you're sponsored now. That even though like the worldwide cyclery guys, they were super freaking rad. Like, and I don't ride for worldwide cyclery. I just work with them. So
I don't ride for them either. I mean, honestly, but I honestly, for me, everything that I've done on my channel is strictly companies that I believe in. So if I'm talking about something from Tasco, for example, like honestly, the shirt that I am wearing, it's fucking awesome. They came out with a shirt that is like cotton, but it's also wicking. But it's like, it looks like a cool shirt. And so like all the wicking shirts that I've had in the past, they're athletic looking shirts. And they actually came out with one that's athletic and wicking. Dude, I'm going to freaking talk about it. You know, like honestly, because it's a freaking cool shirt and it meets what like I would be stoked about. Like I'm stoked that I could have a shirt on that I could ride in that doesn't freaking chafe because it's not 100% cotton and it dries out quick, but it also looks cool after the fact. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, I am probably the minority in terms of kind of what I'm doing with that stuff. But there's some brands like with like my TLD helmet, everyone's been telling me like, oh, you should block out the name on that. Like, dude, that Troy Lee helmet has literally saved my life. Like I think 6 or 7 times now. Like, I don't mind a little bit of free advertisement for them. And at the end of the day too, dude, like me covering up my Pivot logos, I highly doubt that has affected Pivot whatsoever.
Every one of us that rides bike, dude, I could cover up the Santa Cruz logos on my bike all day long, dude. You know a Bronson when you see a Bronson.
Yeah. And
you know a Pivot when you see it. I know a Specialized from a mile away, dude. I don't even ride a Specialized, but I know what that frame looks like. Yeah. So I see what you're saying there. Like, just me personally, I just feel like, I don't know what it's worth, but I mean, I get where you're coming from. I totally get where you're coming from.
So I guess like and another kind of good, like without, I guess like a sort of explanation for it too, is like, for me, like I ride every day, all day, travel all these places, create all this content, right? And so say I have Pivot on my frame and it says Pivot Cycles, big freaking loud, bold lettering. When a company like Santa Cruz or something like that, like if they reach out, which I mean, they're never going to, we're way too small and all this stuff.
Right.
But say a company reaches out and they ask you like, hey, how much is Pivot paying you to kind of put that there? And then you're like, well, they're not paying me anything to put that there. I'm just freaking rocking it. Like, where is the financial incentive for that company to be like, oh, hey, like, well, then why should we pay you X versus, and I hate to sound greedy, but I guess the big thing is just kind of like, it's what I kind of value, like the marketing space on the bike I'm riding right now.
Dude, I mean,
but
at the end of the day, dude, you're trying to fucking put food in your mouth, dude. I get it.
Yeah.
Man. Like, and so like my perspective is totally different, dude, because my channel is not putting food in my mouth. My channel is just barely putting parts on my bike or beer in my fridge. You know, so I get it, man. I totally get it, dude. So let's move past that.
Yeah.
And let's get to a much more important topic. You're riding a 29er, huh?
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck, man? How did that happen?
Are better than any other wheel size out there.
All right, that's weird. My internet just cut out. And no, Awesome's gone. That's weird. No, not so awesome anymore. No, so 20. Why did you ride a 27.5? Are you old? Have ridden a 26er? I mean, I'm just
so I've ridden a 26. I used to have a Noli Endorphin. So I'm also a bike whore. So every 3 months I get a new bike, and it's basically just like that's kind of. It started off with me just like wanting to try new things, and then it turned into a gnarly habit. And then it was just like, it became a problem. And now it's a very accepted problem that I'm like, you know, I could be addicted to a lot worse things. Like, there's a lot of stuff I could be addicted to, but
right.
Right now, just like new bikes. So I love trying out new
like
bikes.
For you, when you're getting a new bike, you're using all your parts. You're just getting like new frames, or you're like,
I'm literally just ordering a new bike.
Yeah.
Which is it's pretty.
So do you baby the one that you have so that it like or like frame protectant and all that stuff, or do you just like, hey, it is what it is?
Mountain bikes they're meant to get ridden, and I freaking ride those things into a ground.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, dude. I hate that when freaking people are like, oh my god, I got a scratch. I'm like, dude, it's a fucking mountain bike.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what it is. I mean, I'll work with bike shops, and like they kind of help me out a little bit. But other than that, it's basically ride that thing to the freaking ground, and then normally I lose a little bit of money, but I don't consider it losing money. I consider it like the cost of living.
No, exactly, dude. That I mean, like exactly what you explained right there is the same. Like the way that I go to a casino and I'm okay with dropping the money for the night. It's like, oh, okay, let's just say I spent $200 that night at the casino.
Yeah.
But I got a whole shitload of drinks and I had a good time from
5
p.m. until 2 a.m. Like, dude, that's worth $200, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I need you to know, like, I'm 100% addicted to riding. Like, it's not even like trying to do like marketing hype or anything like that. Like, literally, like if I don't ride, I would say like a day is the most I can go without riding. I go like absolutely crazy. Like Hannah sees it, everyone sees it.
My lady does the same thing even with me. She's like, dude, you need to just stop trying to like do something with me today because you need to go ride bikes. You need some single track therapy. Get your fucking head straight and come back here. No, I'm with you, man.
And so I did 26 for a while, and then I tried 27.5. And then I tried a 29er, a 9er WFO. And I remember riding that bike, and then for whatever reason, I went down in wheel size after that. I don't remember exactly what. I think I got a Bronson. Do you remember the pink Bronson?
Yep.
Yeah, so I got one of those, and after that, I kind of got on this 27.5-inch kick, where it was just like I would just get a new bike, and I was just interested in trying everything with that wheel size, and it was really fun, really nimble, and I became like this 29er hater, where I was just all like, dude, 29ers are whack. 27.5 is where it's at.
The only reason that I ever was a hater on 29ers was purely because they just didn't handle the same way.
Yeah, there was that too. And
but so they've gotten better.
Dude, so I basically, the first 29er I got on after my 27.5-inch kick, I think was like a Yeti SB55, I think. And I got on that thing, dude, and I was like, oh my God, I have been wasting my time for the last 3 years. I should have been on 29ers. And ever since that, it's like been, the rollover is insane. The traction's insane. You just feel like your ride is a little bit more efficient. But that being said, like a 27.5-inch wheel size, I feel like I have a little bit more fun. So like, I like to do a lot more free ride stuff. And so like anytime like a trail is like vertical and there's like a rut, I feel like the 27.5-inch bike ends up sinking into that rut a little bit easier. You kind of feel like you have a little bit more.
I feel like the 27.5 handles highly technical situations better.
Yeah, I've been in some technical situations though where I like the rollover of 29. So like Sedona, for instance, where like you're just like you need that big wheel to keep you alive. But I do understand like really tight twisty trails.
Yeah, the twitchy stuff.
Wheel.
The twitchy stuff, like that quote unquote wagon wheel. I mean, it just picks a little bit of its own line. Before I had the Chameleon, I was a full on 29er haterish, you know, and waiting to be like amazed. And with the Chameleon, it's definitely started to. It's one of the first 29ers that I've ridden that the handling is there.
It's a drag, dude.
It's the shorter chain stays, or maybe who knows exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But these companies are really starting to get it down.
Have you tried a 29 full suspension yet?
Yeah, I've ridden a few of them. Some of them that I've ridden though were like long travel, and maybe just it wasn't dialed, like the geometry wasn't quite right. The thing that really got me like sort of like starting to sip the Kool-Aid was the 27.5 plus.
Yeah,
because it's almost a 29er, but the traction for a guy that's like you know, over 200 pounds, like that traction that you get on that plus size tire is just amazing.
Yeah.
So I was like feeling like that traction. I'm willing for that traction. I'm willing to give up some of that twitchiness. But then, so like riding a few bikes like that, I'm like warming up to it. And then starting to get on some 29ers that like they really have this the geometry dialed. And now I'm starting to be like, okay, I can see where this is going. I'm not in a place where I'm ready to give up the Bronson. I love the 27.5-inch wheel size.
Yeah.
And I'm also like, you know, a typical like doesn't like change type of person. So I think that's where I'm at for right now. But the Chameleon is definitely like kind of opening my eyes up a little bit.
Dude, at the end of the day, and this is what I tell people all the time, like it literally does not matter what wheel side you freaking ride. Like as long as you freaking ride. And that's where, I mean, working in a bike shop, I saw it a lot. I feel like some people get hung up on, 27.5 versus 29, 29 versus like 29 plus, head angle, seat angle, and all this stuff. And like, yeah, for me, like I love geeking out over that stuff just because it's just something I do on the side. But I feel like some people spend too much time getting hung up on that. And
yeah, I totally agree with you, dude. The bottom line is, dude, do you go outside and ride?
Yeah.
You know, that's the same argument that I have with e-bikes. It's like, why the fuck do you want to sit here and have a whole argument about whether it's good or bad, dude? If it makes somebody get off their couch and go outside instead of playing like Guitar Hero, I would much rather than ride real bikes or e-bikes or 26 or 29 or whatever the fuck it is, 37. You know what I mean? I'd rather watch them do that than play a video game about riding mountain bikes. You know?
And most people, for the most part, when I saw like working in a bike shop, especially that customer that like would spend months like agonizing over what bike to actually get, like I would literally just tell that guy, dude, whatever you buy, you are going to like love.
Yeah.
Like, especially if it's in the right category, like, and I'll make sure that I get you pretty close to that category. But
when it doesn't matter what bike you have, even if you're fucking Aaron Gwen, dude, somebody else will ride a bike that's a different geometry, a different wheel size, a different component set than you, and do better.
Yeah.
You know, so like the bike it is not the bike, it's the engine. End of story. You know,
100%. Yeah. And now,
so what is the number one thing in your bike coaching stuff that you really find yourself over and over again, like hammering into people?
So it's funny, like there's different types of coaches out there, and I'm a yeller. So like my whole kind of coaching thing is like, obviously like I'm very patient, but with certain things, like the biggest ones that I find myself yelling are look up, look where you want to go, shift your body weight back. But like anytime like I see someone on the trail, like I'm coaching someone, like I end up instinctively like yelling, look up. Cause like
it's funny you say that. I don't know if I edit it out of my videos or not. Maybe sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But a lot of times on the trail, that's one of the things I tell myself. Like I'll notice I'm focusing too much. Like I'm not looking out far enough. And I'll say to myself out loud, look up, Rob. Like you need to be out like 50 yards instead of freaking 20 or 5 feet. You know what I mean? Like get your eyes up and look at what's up there, what's underneath you, like your subliminal mind is catching on to. You know what I mean?
So basically what's happening, and this is the way I kind of explain to a lot of riders out there, especially when I'm working through coaching, is there's basically a delay in between what you're seeing and what your body is actually reacting to and processing.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
So like I always tell riders, if you're looking down at your tire, like I don't care like what you actually see, it probably is too late for you to actually react because there is that delay. And so what looking up allows you to do is it allows you to give your body time to actually react to the trail. So oftentimes like that's the biggest thing I find riders doing. In terms of braking technique, normally they'll get into like the chunkier bits. The first thing I see is a lot of riders, most riders, when I am working with them, they have a tendency to, they think like, oh, I need to get low. So all they really do is they bend their knees. And what they don't realize is anytime you bend your knees like that, especially like on a steeper, chunkier bit, you're not, even though you are getting low, you basically don't have that activation in your lower leg muscles to actually
you're shortening your suspension.
You're shortening your suspension, and your body has no, like, it doesn't have the potential to actually react through your legs. So what I focus with riders is rather than sitting down, actually stretch those hamstrings out. So straighten out those hamstrings. So you actually shift your body weight back. It's still getting slightly low, but allowing yourself to kind of stretch those hamstrings out and get on the balls of your feet allows you to kind of have a little bit more kind of hip activation, as well as like lower leg muscles too. So
are
like,
you a flats guy or a clips guy?
I personally run flat pedals all the time. I've run clipless pedals, and I just find for my personal riding style, flat pedals work a lot better.
Do you find yourself like biasly like coaching people in one way or another?
So for the most part, I end up, a majority of people that I work with, because I'm a skills building coach. Right. I have them switch to flat pedals. And if they really are against it, I work with them with clipless pedals. But for the most part, like a lot of my riders, when they come to me, like are normally wanting to take their riding like to the next level or to improve on some skills. And when they're clipped in and we're working on skills, like that's a whole different kind of level of stress for them. And then it becomes more of a safety thing, because now not only are they trying to think of everything that goes in hand with like, say, hitting like a rock roll, now they're stuck to their bike. So if they don't actually want to commit to that roll, that's where it starts to become a little bit more on the dangerous side. But I mean, I have worked with riders with clipless pedals who don't want to switch over to flats. But for the most part, like in my eyes, if you want to dial in your skills from a skills perspective, I think you're better off switching to flat pedals for a little bit. In particular, Paul the punter. I remember when I went up to a ride with him in Canada, that was actually before he switched over to flat pedals. Like I kind of saw like he wanted to kind of dial in some skills. And that's where like having the ability to kind of just get off of your pedals and put a foot down, I feel like just plays a crucial part in giving you the confidence to learn those skills.
I'll tell you right now, dude, I never really had a problem getting off of my clipless pedals unless I told somebody that I couldn't, like it didn't have a problem. However, I just started riding flats with my Chameleon first time in like 20 fucking years. And the one thing that I will say that flat pedals have done is really made me realize how much my foot position actually matters on how my bike handling goes with dropping those heels down and stuff like that, where flat pedal or clipless pedals, they kind of mask that a bit.
Well, and then also on top of that too, like with
I'm also not condoning switching from clipless at this point.
Yeah, so like with like certain things like rear bike control. So a lot of riders, like what they end up kind of seeing when they're on clipless and they switch to flats, especially if they're still in the skills building kind of. And this is not me like applying this to like all mountain bikers. Like I'm specifically talking about riders who don't have the greatest skills, but are wanting to improve and make that jump. Like a lot of it comes down to some riders don't even know how to control the rear end of the bike without depending on themselves being clipped in.
Yeah, there's definitely some things that I've noticed that my clipless pedals have kind of like fucked up some skill sets, and I
Mhm.
didn't realize that they were fucked up until I started riding flats. And because I have a background in BMX, like once I went to like going back to flats, I realized, oh, these are like muscle memory problems that I'm having from
Mhm.
riding clips. Like I recognize it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
And yeah, and it's funny too. Like, so I would say if anything, I'm the type of rider who people would think would run clips. Because I mean, like my ideal ride where I actually have a lot of fun on is like I would say like 40 miles, 8,000 feet of climbing, and that's like a fun ride for me.
For me, the biggest thing with clips, dude, is like I just really like that attachment to the bike when I'm in like super chunk.
Yeah, and that see that's even like something like that, right? Um, when you end up like just going to flat pedals for like say like 2 months and you try to attack the chunk, and you slowly start working on chunk with flat pedals, you start to realize that there's actually also a little bit with kind of not only line choice but also body positioning, hip alignment.
Yeah, and that's what I really started, like what I said just a minute ago, like really
Yeah,
started noticing like, shit, if I drop my fucking heels enough, this isn't a
yeah, you'll
problem.
actually stay on the pedal. And so and it's funny too, like I feel like some riders don't give, and I've seen this a lot where like they tell me like, yeah, like I tried flat pedals at one. I'm not talking about you, but like
Yeah.
there's other riders who like be like, yeah, I tried flat pedals. I basically got like this like loaner set and I wore my Vans. I'm like, no, like that's not the right way to try flat pedals. Like
Yeah, get a good set of pedals, get a good
get a
pair of
set of
shoes.
510 free riders that
Yeah.
are about $100. Get a
Yeah.
good set of flat pedals. And like for me, I feel like I am stuck to my pedal, dude.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I'm definitely starting to understand it.
Mhm.
I'm still in that zone where I feel more comfortable. Like if I'm gonna go ride something fucking chunky and fast, there's
Yeah.
no way I'm not getting on my clips. But I'm starting to understand what people would talk about when they're like, no, flats are good, XYZ reason. You
Mhm.
know, like for me, before I had like this 90s mentality of shitty shoes and shitty pedals that like beat the shit out of your shins.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to learn, hey, that technology's actually gotten better.
And like I said, I'm not trying to generalize the information I'm kind of giving out there. It's more so like these are people that are essentially coming to me from like a skill building perspective and wanting to learn new skills that they don't have, and just having them not be stuck to their bike while they're learning, like I feel like is huge for their confidence. And then down the line, now that they have those skills, just freaking get stuck to your bike at that point when you actually know what you're doing, when you're in certain sections. um,
So, dude, check this out, man. We're
yeah.
wrapping. We're rounding up to 2 hours right now,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and start wrapping this up. I appreciate so much you hanging out and talking with us, man. We've talked
No, it was
about
awesome,
a
dude.
lot of stuff, man,
Yeah.
and it was so much fun, man. Honestly, I didn't know you at all before we
I
got
didn't know.
on.
Yeah.
Barely watched your channel like a few times. Like we've had a great conversation. I can't wait to have you on again.
Oh yeah, dude.
I want to say thank you to everybody that threw up a super chat while we were talking. I tried to like hit you guys up with the keyboard action while that was going on.
Oh, is there a chat going?
Yeah, dude, whole time.
Oh, wow.
It's weird. There's other people listening to us, right? like, thank you guys so much for all the support. If you guys haven't hit the thumbs up button, you should probably do it right now, because there's 67 people watching and 59 thumbs up. We should probably see if we can get that at least 100 before we go ahead and wrap this thing up. Once again, dude, thank you guys.
No, thank you for having me, dude.
Yeah, thank you, Mo, and thank all you guys for watching and subscribing to the channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, you're just watching this shit fucking like one of those 47% or 53%, whatever it is that doesn't subscribe. Hit the button right now. It's down there. Big red button says subscribe on it. Push that button. It makes me happy. I like being happy. If you want to support the channel in any way other than just hitting the subscribe button or the thumbs up button, You can do that by stopping by like shop.biker.com. You can get a cool ass biker hat instead of this weak ass worldwide cycler one that I'm wearing.
You should be putting the biker hat, dude.
Right? I know I should have done that today. I wasn't thinking whenever I started. So also, this is also a podcast for those of you guys who don't know. So it's on Google Play and iTunes. Do me a favor, go by there and write a review for this thing. I really want to see the podcast kind of like up its level. And it does that by you guys writing a review or going like throwing some stars or whatever the hell they do over there. At the end of the day, though, thank you so much, Mo. I'm so glad that you got on, dude. We had a great time chatting. Hopefully you make your way up to NorCal.
Yeah.
And we can do a little something together. Maybe you can teach me how to ride flat pedals better than I'm doing right now.
No, we'll have that porn conversation.
Exactly. Do you have a sign off on your channel that you say?
Yeah, it's and until next time, you guys, ride awesome. You
ride awesome. You. Oh, that's awesome. So I have a little one too. Those of you guys may or may not know it. It only takes a bike to be a biker.
Biker.
Get out and be one.